Childhood fears. Everyone had them. Kids today don't even know how creepy TV shows can be. Growing up in the 90s, we were constantly scaring the hell out of ourselves on Saturday mornings with shows like Goosebumps. So much so that sometimes people expect more genuine scares in highly anticipated horror films or TV series. But how do we get the courage to watch all these soul-torturing horror films? Well, let's just say that our childhood has got something to do with it. Brings you 5 90s kids shows that scared us as kids. Number 5. Courage the Cowardly Dog. Courage the Cowardly Dog was a horror comedy created by John R. Dilworth and shown on the Cartoon Network. Abandoned by his parents in a traumatic incident, Courage the Cowardly Dog finds himself living in a dangerous suburban area called the Nowhere after being adopted by a kind Scottish woman, Muriel. However, due to that traumatic incident, Courage has always been a little sensitive to his surroundings and eventually becomes overprotective of Muriel and her husband Eustace. In the TV show, Courage and his owners were thrown into a series of paranormal events as they encounter all sorts of creepy villains from aliens to demons to psychopaths. Best known for its disturbing sense of humor and realistic twists, the show ran for 4 seasons and ended on November 22, 2002 with a total of 52 episodes produced. Number 4. Peppermint Park. Many people believe that the uncanny valley, a phenomenon in which a person will have a particular emotional response to a humanoid figure or animation that looks almost completely human but not quite, is the reason the 80s home video series Peppermint Park was so unnerving. The puppets in the show, coupled with the melancholy voice acting, were more unnerving than educational. Another creepy aspect of Peppermint Park is the elusiveness of its VHS tapes. Peppermint Park was pretty much the epitome of the art of creepy puppets. Lifeless, rolling eyes, rigid plastic bodies with cloth human hands, and voices that sound like they were recorded in an insane asylum all culminate in a perfect storm of childhood trauma. The show featured a couple of different sets of puppets, one of which was a perverse ripoff of Bert and Ernie who suddenly devolved into autistic ape men, while the other set was a couple of semi-lobotomized dragons with voices even odder than the human puppets, which is saying something. Number 3. Jigsaw. Jigsaw featured a few standard human presenters who came together to solve riddles and puzzles along with the children watching. Pretty normal stuff, really. However, one specific character from this show, Mr. Nosybonk, has single-handedly placed this program in the hollowed echelon of children's nightmares that stick with them to adulthood. Any description of this character wouldn't be half as unsettling as seeing a picture of him, or even worse, watching him grow more demonic Nosybonk in his greenhouse. Nosybonk's silent demeanor only made him more terrifying. He acted as a terrifying, cartoonish Slenderman-like character that wore gloves, a dinner suit, ragged hair, and a large white mask with a toothy, venomous grin. Jigsaw is the perfect example of how writers of a show may have the best intentions, but their execution can result in something out of a child's nightmare. Number 2. Goosebumps. If you grew up in the 90s, then you would remember Goosebumps as the super popular anthology of horror books by writer R.L. Stine. From stories about the sentient scarecrows, monsters that hid among you, to the disgusting slime and worms, all terrified the children of the 90s. Some may have even forgotten that the book series was adapted into a 4-season TV show in the late 90s. While many of the episodes are as cheesy as they can be, there were a few episodes that may have been a little too disturbing for its young fanbase. The haunted mask in particular was a little too extra for some. The subtle smiling plaster head at the beginning and the pretty disturbing handmade masks in the episode were pretty scary. Number 1. Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Canadian-American horror fantasy anthology series Are You Afraid of the Dark, aired on Nickelodeon in the early 90s, was popularly known as the tale of 90s kids' worst nightmare. Truly, that clown was our worst nightmare indeed. Created in 1991, Are You Afraid of the Dark was a TV series that sent chills down our spines and haunted us every night in our dreams. However, most kids and even adults at that time couldn't stop watching the show, as it featured various ghostly tales as told by a group of young people who called themselves the Midnight Society. The show lasted for quite a few seasons, and for good reason. It was nothing short of entertaining. Are You Afraid of the Dark was a little less cheesy than Goosebumps and seemed to be intended for a slightly older audience, though a majority of the episodes had feel-good happy endings. But as happy as the endings were, the few memorable monsters such as Zeebo the Clown, yikes, and the ghastly Grinner, double yikes, of the series were pure nightmare fuel. Thank you for watching. Please like and share this video on social networks and hit the red button to subscribe to this channel, and we'll be right back to you with more interesting videos as fast as we can.